Welcome back to Vital Signs. We're going to shift gears a little bit and talk about the legal aspects of remote work with our resident legal expert, Jason. Welcome back to the studio.
Hi, Jen. Thanks for having me. I'm Jason Desouza. I'm the founder of Desouza Injury Lawyers in San Antonio. We've got clients in San Antonio and all over the state.
Jason, how do injury liabilities change when employees are working remotely?
You know, Jen, when you called me about this one, you remember the first thing I asked you was, what do you mean by remote? Because, you know, now that we live in this post-COVID world, we've got a lot of people who are working from home and they're considered remote workers. But we've always had large companies who have remote workers who are on site. So, you know, when we talked, one of the things you said is, well, tell me about both. So that's what we'll do. If we're talking about people who work from home, remote workers who say work desk jobs from home, I think the liability for a business is basically the same as if that person were off the clock working in their own home. Meaning that if they got up from their desk to go to the kitchen to get a drink of water and they tripped over their dog, well, that's a homeowner's claim, if it even is a homeowner's claim, and I don't think it is because homeowner's claims don't apply to the homeowner. If there was some issue, for example, that came up with that employee having to work a long number of hours and they developed a wrist injury because they had to keep their hand on their mouse for a long time, and you had workers' comp, then I think the repetitive strain injury would be covered by workers' comp. And I always wonder why businesses choose not to get workers' comp, considering that it's so cheap, the premium per employee. So I think if and I think the area of law about remote workers is still really developing, because really it's the large amount of the workforce that's gone remote is a very new phenomenon. It hasn't really been like this. Before 2020, it was very rare for it to be like this. And now, in this post-COVID world, I mean, I think that your viewers can pull up any number of people they know that work from home on a regular basis. So if we're talking about a remote desk job, I think that's the general liability, is what kind of liability does a homeowner have toward themselves. But if we're talking about a different kind of liability for remote work, and we're talking about, for example, delivery people, right? Or we're talking about, again, if we're talking about the oil field, going back to the oil field and talking about workers who show up from one site, say in Corpus Christi, and they go down to the valley and they do work at an oil field site. Or, you know, we've got electricians that go into people's homes, that type of remote work. Or we've got truck drivers. Truck drivers are a huge, if we include the definition of working away from working in a remote office, being on the road, truck drivers were the original remote employees. So when you've got employees working remotely, it presents a much, much bigger challenge, because how does the company adequately track and monitor and make sure that those remote workers are remaining safe, but also following company policy when they're not right underneath the eyeball of the boss? And I would say that's really how liabilities change, because now you've got these employees and you've got to have a really, really high level of trust in these people. You've got to have a high level of trust that the electrician that comes out to your home isn't a sex offender, right? You have to have a high level of trust that the oil field guy that goes out to work on the rig gets treated properly and doesn't get injured by another worker. You've got to have a high level of trust that the truck driver who's delivering goods from point A to point B drives in a careful manner. So really, when employees start working remotely, even if they're working a desk job, because they could be at a desk job but engaging in some form of cyberbullying while they're on the clock for you, or they could be doing something else, you know, any other thing that you can imagine while they're on the clock for you. So I think that that's exactly how liabilities change, is that you lose the ability to monitor employees and see what they're doing. Not that you need to micromanage them, of course, but you lose that monitoring ability because they're off on the road and they're working remotely, and the ability to see what they're doing really changes. So that's how I think that injury liabilities changed when you've got remote workers of either kind, the desk type or the trades type.
What are the best practices for small businesses to ensure that remote work is safe?
Absolutely. And at my law firm and in my life generally, one of the things that we adopt is we want a safety first, safety always attitude. And when you adopt a safety first, safety always attitude, I think that it really tends to grow into a tree that provides a lot of shade. And what do I mean by that? I mean that the safety tree allows a lot of people to fall under that shade of safety by making sure that they're tending to the safety tree, because the bigger that tree gets and the more shade you get from it, the more protected from the outside elements you actually are. So, what are the best practices for these small businesses? Well, number one, of course, always have a safety manual. You always want to have a safety manual for any small business, any business at all. You want to have a policy manual. In that policy manual, you want to have a safety manual. You can ask any lawyer to draw you up a safety manual. If you feel like maybe there's an affordability issue and you can't afford a lawyer, well then just go look it up on the internet yourself. Go find a safety manual yourself. You'll have to put the time in yourself, of course, to customize it. You don't want somebody else's company's name to be in that safety manual, because then you'll look really bad or silly. But you want to make sure that you've got a safety manual in place. You're implementing the points and policies in the safety manual. And I think when you've got remote employees, most importantly, what you really need to be able to do is monitor them. Monitor their actions, monitor their activities, monitor their understandings of policy. So, for example, let's go back to the electrician. Well, I think it's pretty simple. Don't hire an electrician who you know is going to go into customers' homes who has an aggravated sexual background, who has the risk of sexually assaulting your customers, right? That person you just can't hire. Number two, the second example is if you've got a truck driver, right? And you make sure that that truck driver you can put a little GPS on their truck, and you can find out the speed that they're going, the location that they're at, their whereabouts, when they stop for lunch, how long they stop for lunch. Put a camera on the outside of that truck. Some of y'all might think I'm crazy. Some of you trucking company owners might think I'm crazy. You'll be like, oh, we'll put a camera on the outside of the truck and that'll go and protect your case, Jason. Well, it protects everyone. If your employee is operating their vehicle in a safe manner, then I think that we've got a great case for putting cameras on the outside of those 18-wheelers. If you've got a remote desk employee, just make sure they're not doing anything that they wouldn't be doing while they're in the office. And that includes any number of things. Are they actually working for you when they say they're working for you? Are they actually adhering to the time that they're saying they're in the office on, right? How do you verify these things? Well, I'll leave that up to you as a business owner to determine that. But again, when you have remote employees, it involves a great degree of trust. If somebody is not responsible enough to hold your trust and they abuse your trust, well, I don't think they need to be an employee of yours anymore, because frankly, I think they're a liability. So that's what I would say is your best practices always start with an attitude of safety first, safety always. Make sure that you've got a safety manual in place. Make sure you follow that safety manual, and make sure you're monitoring your employees, your remote employees, so that they are doing what they say they're doing and they're doing what you're paying them to do.
Thank you for that. Are there any specific legal considerations for businesses with a larger remote workforce?
Well, Jen, I as a lawyer, I always tend to back away from specifics because there are any different number of specifics, and you could have 10 lawyers and they'll give you 10 different opinions on specific considerations for businesses with large workforces, remote workforces. What I would say is, number one, if you create that habit and that attitude of safety first and safety always, and you show your employees that you care about their well-being and you care about their safety, I think that they'll do their best to reciprocate and ensure that they're working in a safe environment. So let me give you an example. Let's say you've got a large remote workforce, and it's a company like Chesapeake. And Chesapeake is out, all over the United States that are drilling natural gas wells, and they're redoing B sections, and they're doing swaps and doing all kinds of big jobs. And they're a massive company based in Oklahoma City. Well, one of the things that employees would really be responsive to at a large company like Chesapeake or any other large company is they would care that the management of that company is not sending them into dangerous environments. They're not sending them into risky jobs. They're not sending them into places where they know that there's a known potential risk. Now, a lot of these jobs require you just deal in dangerous environments. You're talking offshore oil drilling. You're talking about ice road truckers. You talk about Arctic fishing. They're very, very dangerous environments already. But the key is that don't send your people, don't send your guys into dangerous environments without the right tools, right? If you show that you actually care about their well-being, give them the right equipment to do the job that you've hired them to do. Don't send them in to do this job that you know is going to present risk to them, unnecessary risk to them. Don't send them into a job without the right tools that would set them up for failure. And I think when you do that and you show your crew that safety first, safety always, safety is what matters to you, and you'll show them that, hey, I'm going to give you your desk employee. I'm going to pay I'll pay for a mouse pad so you don't get repetitive strain injury, RSI. Take a break every hour and 30 minutes and just kind of like shake your hands, take a stretch for yourself. When you show your people that you care about them and you care about safety and you give them the tools they need to succeed in being safe, I think that they will deliver for you and they will ensure that you're in a safe workforce. I think that the reflection of your culture from a company always comes from the top, and I think that the culture of your company dictates whether you're all about money or whether you're all about safety. And you can't be both. And I think that as a personal injury lawyer, businesses should only be about safety first.
Thank you so much for these insights. I know you've provided a ton of value. For our viewers and listeners who would like to maybe reach out to you, maybe they have questions or would like to find someone to help them with this, how can they find you?
Jen, thank you so much for having me. You can always visit us at our principal office in San Antonio. We'll be there with a smile waiting for you. You can look us up online on the web, Desouza Injury Lawyers, and find our website. You can always contact us through the website. You can find us on Facebook at Desouza Injury Lawyers. You can find us on Instagram at Desouza Injury Lawyers. And if you've got a question or you have a case that you're a plaintiff on it, you can always text me to my personal number, which is 210-591-9777. Thanks a lot, Jen. Thanks for having me.
Thank you again, Jason. We really appreciate you. And you, yes, you. Unfortunately, all good things come to an end, including this show. But the good news is we will be here same time, same station next week. Until then, have a nice day.
This has been a Now Media Networks feature presentation. All rights reserved.